Now that we have covered the individual portions, the three different bones that make up the pelvis, we'll discuss the bony landmarks of each one of those individual bones. We're going to start with the largest aspect, which is our ilium, and that's our upper portion. Okay. Now, right here, part of the ilium, there's a concavity. If I tilt it a little, you can see how it goes in. Okay, that's going to be the iliac fossa. Above the iliac fossa, you have this section here, which is the iliac crest. The iliac crest is the top part of this bone and is the part that you can feel when you put your hands on your hip. If I rotate this bone so that we're looking a little more from a lateral aspect, you're going to see that the pubis bone is here, the ischial bone is here, and from this viewpoint, most of the ilium seems to have disappeared. But what you can see are this point and this point. Okay. These 2 points are closer towards the pubis, so they are on the anterior side of this bone. Okay. This point is above this point, which means this is our superior point and this is our inferior point. Since they are both on the anterior side, we have our anterior superior iliac spine and our anterior inferior iliac spine. Okay. And their spines, their protrusions, if I turn the bone this way, you can see how we have them sticking or coming off of the bone like a spine, and this one also. Okay. So your anterior superior iliac spine is going to be right there. Your anterior inferior iliac spine is right there. Okay. If I continue to rotate this bone so that you get to the posterior aspect of the bone, okay, which is what you're looking at right here, okay, and you'll notice that this one does not dip in unlike the other side. So this is our posterior aspect of the ilium. And the posterior aspect of the ilium is going to have 3 lines located on it. They did not show on this particular model, so we'll have to use our imaginations a little bit. But you have one line, it's going to be above or at the highest point, okay? And that's going to be your superior gluteal line. Below that, you'll have another line, which is your middle gluteal line. And below that, you'll have a third, which is your inferior gluteal line. So your inferior gluteal line, your middle gluteal line, and your superior gluteal line. These are all points where the 3 glute muscles attach to. I'm going to rotate a little more, so we're still looking at a posterior aspect, okay? And you can't really see, so we're just going to keep going a little further. Okay. But this, right, that's the pubis, this is the ischium, this is still the ilium. This portion right here is where the sacrum is going to join together. Okay. As part of this bone, okay, when we looked at it from over here, we had our anterior superior iliac spine, our anterior inferior iliac spine. Now, since we spun it around, right, talked about our gluteal lines here, if we continue the spinning, we'll note that there is another spine here and another spine here. Okay. So this one is on the posterior, as is this one. So these are both posterior spines. The spine's also on the ilium still, so it's a posterior iliac spine. That still does not distinguish the difference between this spine and this spine, so we need to add one more word. And since one is above the other, we're going to call this particular one the posterior superior iliac spine, and this one the posterior inferior iliac spine. And that's going to be on your side. Okay. And you can see in this viewpoint your posterior superior iliac spine, little dip, your posterior inferior iliac spine. Okay. And you get to this viewpoint and you see this wonderful little notch, kind of looks like someone hit it with a hatchet or an axe. Okay. That particular space right here is called the greater sciatic notch. Okay. And that is also part of the ilium. Okay. You also have one last part. Okay. And remember, we're still on the posterior aspect of the ilium here. Okay. And if you get in close, you can see right here, okay, is a little different than right here. They're very close together. Here is your posterior superior iliac spine, and here is your iliac tuberosity. Okay. And that's all of the parts for the ilium. Iliac tuberosity, posterior superior iliac spine, posterior inferior iliac spine, greater sciatic notch right here, your superior gluteal line, middle gluteal line, and your inferior gluteal line. Your iliac crest, your iliac fossa in this area here, and your anterior superior iliac spine, your anterior inferior iliac spine. Now we'll move on to another aspect of this bone. Okay. So this is a lateral view, a side view of this bone. And you have, again, your ilium, okay, your ischium, and your pubis. There are two distinct characteristics that jump out at this point. When you're looking at the lateral side, you have this piece right here, which is your acetabulum. Okay, and this is the part where all three of the pelvis bones merge together. This, the acetabulum, forms the socket for the ball and socket joint of the hip. Okay. Directly below the acetabulum, you have this section here. Very hard to show up as a whole. Okay. And this space right in here, this hole, is called the obturator foramen. Okay. We are looking at the posterior aspect. I'm just going to turn a little more.